Today is the 25th of October 2025, and we meet once again on our usual Saturday sessions, which are unification meetings. So, all our Saturdays are unification um, meetings, and we discuss all issues related with unification. Um, when we looked at all areas, both development, liberation, unification, and we look at all the sub subjects, economics, politics, and everything else. Today, we meet once again for the second time to discuss the unification of Africa, but not based on the neo-colonial territories, but based on the organic nations of Africa. So I would like to welcome you all to today's session. Sister Ida, Brother Benny, Brother Windhoek, Sister Injidika, Brother Brian, Brother Daniel, and Sister Tapua. So welcome. As you know, this session is being recorded and it will be shared on our YouTube channel. And we understand from the interaction on our YouTube channel that about 100 people on average watch our sessions every week. So even though we are a few here, be heartened that more people will watch the videos. Today's session, I believe I am sharing my screen. Is that correct? Is my screen clear? Can you see my
Yes, please.
presentation? Okay. I wasn't sure
Eh,
if
Not
I
yet.
see.
you
It's
could
in the
see it.
back. You have no, not your presentation.
Right. Let me share it again. um, let me share it again. I thought I had. So here it is again. Confirm that you can see the presentation, please.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Behind me, as you can see, is the map of Africa, but it is not recognizable because this is one of the first maps of Africa. So I believe my co-hosts will be keeping an eye on the waiting room in order to let people in. So thank you once again for coming. We've been joined by Brother Kama, Tanzania. We haven't seen him for a long time. Brother Kama, his microphone is now getting in place. Brother Kama, welcome. We haven't seen you for so long. So today's session, as I said, is on the unification of Africa. So I'm going to go through it. I hope to present for about just half an hour maximum so that we can have discussions. So it's a unified African continent without borders. We know we have a group of Africans who call themselves Africa without borders. And I call this a combined parts 1 and 2. Africa without borders, I think, is the second liberation. The first liberation was to get rid of the imperialists, to get rid of them from the continent as managers of our territories, because we never gave them permission to govern us. They took over governance, sometimes by force, sometimes by deception, and sometimes it's just the way things happened. And so it seems to me that an Africa without borders is the second liberation. Although most Africans haven't seen it that way, because most Africans today are satisfied with the current status quo where we call ourselves Senegalese or Libyans or Ghanaians or Kenyans or South Africans or Zimbabweans and so on and so forth. And that in itself is deceptive. It lulls us into sleep, thinking that we have reached. And some of us here in your presentations, elsewhere, and in our our Thursday classes remind us that these are not our natural nationalities, because these countries are neo-colonial entities. And they were never the destination for our forefathers when they fought for independence. We know that because there was a move to unify Africa, which was sabotaged by the criminals and the thieves. You know who they are. I don't need to mention them. And some might say the crybabies who have not grown up enough to stop sucking breast milk, the breast milk of the African mother. Grown men and women still behaving as if they were children. Some would say spoiled children. So the current borders were never their destination. And we know, for instance, that Guinea, Ghana, and Mali formed a union, and Congo was also going to join that union when they moved to murder Patrice Lumumba. It didn't stop Nkrumah from sending soldiers to the Ghana Armed Forces to Congo to secure the life of Patrice Lumumba, only for the UN to get in the way, and the Ghana army refusing to take instructions from the Ghana government, which then led to the killing of, or the murder, if you like, of Patrice Lumumba. And that incident and the reparations that must follow that has not yet happened, but we believe that will happen in the not too long future. So welcome. And I call my presentation the United Nations of Africa, which should be a federation of all the organic nations of Africa. And I'll come to who the organic nations are later. So it's a proposal for the revolutionary reconstruction of the African nation. And the song that was being sung by the musician was especially on this topic, that Africa should form one nation, a nation of nations. So I'm Christian Kwame Agbotsa. I'm the chair of the Consensusism Study Group. And I would like to let you know that our brother who is here, Brother Sir WHK Windhoek, is the one that is going to be leading this drive for the United Nations of Africa. And the reason he's leading it is because he's come forward several times to put his name, to put his signature to documents that CSG wishes to release. And because he has always come forward to put his name to CSG documents that we want to release into the public domain, I think that he's the right person to lead this for us. So if you would like to answer our call to action, that is his mobile number, and that is his email address. I will share it again later. Please get in touch with him to know what part you can play. The mesh is sovereign. Now, an axiom in philosophy and mathematics is a self-evident pre-legal truth. So it doesn't need to be justified by law or by reference to any man-made construction. And there are many man-made constructions, including mathematics, physics, chemistry, law, or jurisprudence, and so on. Social man-made constructions which are based in human society all arrived on this planet after the planet came. Man and human society does not precede the universe, and certainly not before water water emerged from the fusion of hydrogen and oxygen. So man could not have been here before water was here. So all these institutions and disciplines are man-made construction, including law. So I would like it to be clear that a man-made legal construction cannot deny a self-evident pre-legal truth. It can only ignore it or attempt to obscure it. And that has been our experience as Africans. Our sovereignty was ignored or obscured by the criminals and the thieves who were only interested in stealing what belonged to us. So a legal statement is a proposition, but the axiomatic truth from which that legal statement takes its origin is the foundational reality. And a constitution, whether it's the Constitution of Ghana, the Constitution of Kenya, the Constitution of Zimbabwe, the Constitution of South Africa, whatever nation we want to mention on the African soil, that constitution cannot override the sovereignty of the African nation. So all these neo-colonial states are in reality not sovereign. And the sovereignty has its roots only in the nation, in the organic nation, by which I mean the people, the human beings, as Sister Tapua said, Muntu. Is it Muntu or the Ubuntu? Amagbeto, as we would say also. So the state, a constitution can say that the state is sovereign, but it cannot nullify the operational truth, which is that the mesh is sovereign. And the mesh is the interconnected system of Africans' organic nations. Sometimes we forget that the nations of Africa have always been united very deeply. And even though one group will not speak the language of another group, you will find that at the borders between two organic nations, there are those who can speak other languages. And this goes across from Western Africa all the way to South Africa in the south. North to the north, to the east, and so on. So the state's power exists only as long as we behave as if its proposition is true, thereby ignoring the foundational reality. The moment we act according to the axiom, the legal proposition loses all power, because its power was always borrowed from our obedience, not from any inherent truth. So in other words, the current neo-colonial states do not have power over us. By us, I mean we, the organic nations. They only have power because we obey them. If we withdraw our obedience, it doesn't have to be through force. We can just refuse to listen to them, and they lose their power. So I want you to be clear that this is where my presentation has its origin, in the deep reality of nature itself. Now, this is the map of our illegitimate prisons, I would call. These are all prisons: Angola, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Niger, or Niger, Libya, Western Sahara, which Morocco is fighting over, Mauritania. These are all, this is not Africa. These are impositions on the nations of Africa. Because when you go into every new colonial territory, you will find that there are organic nations. And we know them. In Ghana, for instance, where I come from, we have the Akans, we have the Evers, we have the Dagombas, and so on. We have the Gans. These are all nations in their own right. They have their own mores, their own customs, they have their own laws. traditional laws, they have their own traditional constitutions, and so on and so forth. These are the organic nations of Africa. And what has happened is that they've been imposed upon by this illegitimate, I say illegitimate because you say it's legal because it was voted in. Something can be legal but illegitimate, like slavery was legal for those who enslaved us, but it was never legitimate. So something can be legal but not legitimate. So for us, what you're seeing on the screen is illegitimate. They have imprisoned the organic nations of Africa, who even cannot free trade with brothers and sisters across the border. In Ivory Coast, we have a lot of accounts, all the way from Brong to the Nzimas, where Nkrumah comes from. And the creation of this artificial border called Ivory Coast has divided these people. And it's the same on the other side. And on the other side of Nigeria, Cameroon and Nigeria, same people, again separated. We know these things already, so I don't need to go over them. I'm just saying that these are illegitimate prisons. And what we are saying is that we've had enough. We want to break out of these prisons. And our breaking out of the prisons are not going to be, it doesn't need us to confront anybody. We just need to act because we are sovereigns. So here is Africa without any borders. It's just Africa, a one nation. That's what we want. Now, how did we arrive here? Because of the faulty foundation, building on the colonial sand key points. The current states are colonial constructs in Berlin, 1884. They were designed for extraction, not liberation. And the first liberation that we had was from the white master, as some say. But the second liberation that some Africans, not all, are fighting for is from the master's map. And I think this is the second liberation. We want to liberate ourselves from the current map of Africa. And a United States of Africa will just be a union of our prisons, because United States of Africa will be a union of the current new colonial states. And that is not good news for us. So, sovereign residence. Where does sovereignty lie? Where lies sovereignty? Well, the logical sequence for me is as follows. The mesh is sovereign, and the mesh are the interconnected organic nations of Africa. They are sovereign. And since the mesh is the interconnected system of Africa's organic nations, therefore the organic nations of Africa are sovereign. So that is the logical basis of what I am saying. So sovereignty resides in the living functional network of the Luo, the Ewe, the Oromo, the Igbo, the Zulu, call it whatever you like, all the organic nations of Africa. That is where sovereignty resides. It does not reside in the new colonial state, the criminal state, if you ask me. So the core critique is the problem of Berlin, Africa. So our proposal is a foundational argument. We reject the current African state system, which we label as Berlin, Africa. It refers to the borders imposed by 1884-1885 Berlin Conference in Germany, where European powers carved up the continent without regard for existing ethnic, linguistic, or political realities. This has metamorphosed into neocolonialism, where these states are portrayed as being run by neocolonial officials who are stooges for former imperial powers, preventing true self-determination. It's an illegitimate foundation, because the current states are seen as illegitimate imposition, creating artificial entities that lack true national sovereignty. And finally, it is suppressing the true nations. So we argue that the real political needs of Africa are the nationalities. Example, the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Zulu, the Amhara, the Oromo, which were forcibly compressed into the Berlin imposed states. The current African Union is merely a union of these illegitimate states. and does not represent the true will of the African people. Let's look at the timeline. So there was the age of kingdoms, the Oyo, Asante, the Zulu, and they fought for regional dominance. They forgot to fight for continental unification. We would argue that that was a critical strategic failure on their part. At the time when William the Conqueror was landing in England, ancient Ghana had an army of 20,000. And the royal force alone had 5,000 as its peak. Yet they failed to unify the African continent. Mansa Musa reigned from 1324 to 1337. I argue he squandered Mali's vast wealth on useless projects rather than the unification of Africa. In 1684, there was the Peace of Westphalia, which established the modern nation state in Europe, the Dutch Republic. And it was following that in 1884-85 that the Berlin Conference was held, and there was the illegitimate creation of Berlin, Africa, that dispossessed the legitimate rulers like the Asantehene, the Oba of Benin, Emperor Haile Selassie, and King Lobengula. And that is understandable because they failed to unite the continent. So what did they expect? 1901, the first Pan-African Conference was held in the United States of America. It wasn't on African soil because the Africans were asleep. So it was the Africans who had been enslaved who from outside could see that Africa had to be united. Africans themselves, even up to today, are still asleep when it comes to unification of the continent. Most times it is we in the diaspora who are calling for Africa's unification. Sad as it is, that is the truth. There were a few Pan-African conferences. Then the fifth one was in Manchester, organized by Padmore, a trade unionist, and Nkrumah met him at King's Cross Station, having come from America. And together they organized it. In 1958, the first All-African People's Conference was held in Accra, convened by none other but Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah himself. And it was to build momentum for a unified Africa. In 1963, they met in Addis Ababa and the OAU was formed. The problem was that the OAU was a collection of Berlin African states after the success of the decolonization movement. And as Museveni has said in the past, after they got it, they all fell asleep. All the strategic relationships they had built, they just forgot them all. They did not build on it to the extent that some believe that we are close to a second decolonization process, which therefore calls for the second liberation, which is to remove the borders. In 2002, I believe the African Union was formed, but the African Union is still a union of Berlin states. It's still failing to express the will of the African people. Well, it shouldn't surprise us. The Berlin states are not organic states. They are impositions. And as I said earlier, the idea was that they were meant to be temporary. When they left the Manchester Conference, the idea was that you go to your new colonial territory, they were then the colonized states, and you will fight for independence. That was the idea. And even when they left Manchester, they had the vision to unite West Africa. And remnants of that unification is the fact that the whole of West Africa, as you know, still shares the same exam council called the West African Examinations Council. And that runs for the whole of West Africa. So that was the idea. And that is a remnant of that. But at the time, they wanted to unite the whole of West Africa. And Nkrumah has said that it was when he was in office from 1951 that it dawned on him that uniting West Africa alone will not solve the fundamental problem of resource extraction. Because if West Africa is united and Southern Africa is not liberated, what good is that to the African continent? It means our sisters and brothers, even though we know they don't like us at this point in history because they forgot what we did for them. However, it's ignorance. We'll educate them for them to realize they were not there during the Soweto riots. A lot of them are young. They haven't been told by their parents what, for example, Nigeria did for them. So it's understandable that they don't understand what we did for them, the tears we shed for South Africa, for them to be where they are today. So that was in 2002. Today, I am proposing for the United Nations of Africa, which is a federation of all the organic nations. I believe that this is the final total decolonization and the correction of these historical failures. So that's the proposal. The proposal to Berlin is a United Nations of Africa, a federation of our natural nations. So our central vision is not a United States of Africa, rather, which would be a federation of the existing neocolonial states, and that would be a disaster. To have the current neocolonial states unite is not good for us at all. It's not good because all they will do is they will collectivize the police force, and they will murder us in our homes, in our beds. What happened in Kenya recently will be replicated by these criminal states, and that's not good for us. So we do not want a United States of Africa. Rather, we want a United Nations of Africa, a single federated sovereign state composed of all African nationalities, both on the continent and in the diaspora. Because our children live here. Our children live in America. They live in Europe. They live in Brazil. They live in Russia. We can't leave them out. What are the key features of my proposed UNA? Well, a single sovereign state, which means the 54 plus sovereign states will be abolished, which is a philosophical and material nonsense anyway. I mean, Russia is just one country. It has the same population as Africa combined. And they have one government. And you have 55. Is that not nonsense? I mean, do we really sit down and think, our people? Because, I mean, unless we are asleep, how can you have 54 sovereign states on the continent with the same population as China? Does that make sense? Then you say that Ghana and China should sit down and negotiate what? What can you negotiate with China? How can Senegal and China sit down as equal nations to negotiate? Are you serious? It's a joke. It's a serious joke. So we are saying that it should be based on the nationalities, not the states, the Yoruba, the Kikuyu, etc. And each nationality, regardless of size, would have one vote in the global African continent. And we have diaspora inclusion. Diaspora, I mean, the Haiti, Barbados, African Americans will be explicitly included. Of course, they don't have to if they don't want. You remember the fight between Garvey and Du Bois. Garvey wanted to return to Africa. Du Bois said no and opposed it. Those who don't want can stay in America. They can stay in Brazil. They can say whatever they like. They don't have to join if they don't want to. But those who want to should be encouraged to. And there should be an abolition of current systems. We think current systems should be abolished. Political parties are not serving the needs of Africa at all. They are a complete waste of our time, political parties. Western liberal democracy, which has its roots in Athens, where it was okay to own slaves and then claim that you are all free to vote. And if you are a slave, you can't vote. And because Socrates said everybody is equal, they killed him. Oh, what kind of democracy is that? Where you oppress other people. We don't like this kind of democracy. You know, where a few people can live in luxury and then the rest of us are suffering. You know, pushing bicycles to go and trade over hundreds of miles or tens of miles, if you like, through potholes, ditches, when our country is the richest in the world. I'm talking about Congo, where the cobalt for mobile phone zone come from. And yet the ordinary Congolese is living like in fact is living even less than a human being. How can we tolerate such things? I mean, today. So the current AU states should also be abolished. We can't do it forcefully, so we do it in a different way. We just assert our sovereignty and make it obsolete. That's what we have to do. Governance with our head of state. The head of state should no more be any elected president. Elected presidents are a waste of time. How many elected presidents really pursue the interest of the nation? I mean, we hear Mahama in Ghana is doing a good job. Maybe he's one out of 50, 55. But really, which head of state is really interested in the welfare of the people? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do. So we are saying that the nation, because they are organic nations, they must be headed by it must be a ceremonial role, and it must be done by rotation among the royal houses of the various African nationalities. Every African nation has a royal house. So we are saying that it should be in rotation. So there's no dictatorship, if you like, or ceremonial dictatorship. And the position will be unelected, which is by rotation. That's what we are proposing. The head of the government for the continent, we believe, should be a president who will look after the bureaucratic administration, but should not be the head of state. They are not fit to be head of states. No. And the administration of the continent should be based on scientific criteria and meritocracy, we think. And the administrative divisions should be provinces, regions, district areas, and units. So the current Berlin states can remain, but we should see them as regions. That's what we are saying. And then the regions the regions that are called the current regions in the countries should be districts, and so on and so forth. That is our proposal. And we are saying there should be gender parity. The African nation must begin with understanding that men and women are equal. We don't want this nonsense where there's patriarchal domination of women, and women are turning into beasts of burden in some capitals on our continent, where they carry heavy loads and nobody seems to care. Instead of our women being in schools and being the mothers of our civilization, they've been turned into beasts of burden. And yet they are our sisters and our mothers and our aunties and so on and so forth. That has to stop. So they have equality, and women should be in leadership positions. And women who are in leadership positions should also help other women come up, because some women, when they're in leadership positions, forget that they are women. Now, there are symbolic and functional capitals I am proposing. They are Addis Ababa as our political capital, Lagos as our economic capital. We should house the new reparations bank. Accra should remain the philosophical and ideological capital. We've got the William Du Bois Center there. We've got the George Padmore Library. We've got the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum. So those will be our ideological and philosophical mecca, if you like. Kigali should remain a Holocaust center to remember all the crimes, including the current Gaza genocide, which is happening on the African continental belt. Other people don't realize that Gaza sits on the African continental belt. This talk of Middle East is a geographical nonsense. There's no such thing as the Middle East. It's not Africa. Then there is Algiers for our United Nations to replace the current UN, which is a waste of time. Some would say it's a criminal organization, criminal in the sense that it is undemocratic. Then the African Central Bank in Libya, in honor of Gaddafi, who was a champion of a single African currency, which at the time he said should be backed by the Libyan gold, which was stolen by the imperialists when they invaded Libya. The African mausoleum and ancient history should be Cairo, and then Johannesburg should be the industrial capital, we believe. And Brother Windhoek brought this to my attention after the first presentation. Now, when it comes to security and sovereignty, we are proposing that there should be a unified military called the African High Command, the same name given by Nkrumah anyway, and championed by Idi Amin, you recall. It should be under civilian control, and there must be mandatory service for all African youth. They should serve in the African High Command as a patriotic duty. Its mission must be to defend the territorial integrity of the entire continent and ensure its total liberation at all times by all means necessary. The proposal I am making has the following ideological and philosophical underpinnings. First of all, radical Pan-Africanism. It goes beyond that proposed by Nkrumah. Remember, Nkrumah's Pan-Africanism was based on the existing states. This is what Nkrumah. That's why Ghana, Guinea, and Mali became. They unified. They began to cooperate. So it has happened before, where the willing started getting together. And I said Congo wanted to join as well. But we are saying that we are calling for the complete dissolution of the existing states through obsolescence into a single racial national entity, in which one nation, in which all Black and only Black people are one. Yes, I hope it's okay with everyone. Why can't we be ourselves? In my language, we say Africa is a land of Black people. Amaibo, even in Ghana, is the same. Akan is the same. Abibi man. In Luo is the same. I'm sure it's the same in every African language. We refer to our land as a land of Black people. Herodotus, the father of Greek history, said the same thing, the land of the Black people. Why do we want to make it different? It's always been the land of Black people, and so may it remain forever and ever. The other thing is the historical grievance operations. We recall a history of enslavement, colonization, and ongoing exploitation. So our proposal focuses on repairing Africa, and the Reparations Bank underscores this. Restoration, renaissance. I remember Thabo Mbeki in 1996 making that famous speech in the South African Parliament on Africa, on Renaissance. It was a memorable speech. I was in South Africa at the time, so yeah. Then our proposal is also based on spiritual and cultural rebirth. Proposal calls for re-education, reconstruction, restoration, decolonization, aiming to reestablish the African identity, beauty, and courage, which is the African personality. Sometimes I wonder if Africans realize how beautiful they are. I don't think Africans realize how beautiful they are. I went into a parlor where you can darken your skin, and I asked the lady, "What do you do here?" And she said, "Oh, if you want to darken your skin, yeah, that's where you come, and then you go into like a sauna." And I said to her, "You mean to be like me?" And she said, "Yes." This is a white woman, by the way. And we had a frank discussion. And she said to me that they are tired of looking pale. These were her words, not mine. So I don't think we realize how beautiful we are. From the charcoal dark of the Sudan to the light of Rwanda. We have it all. It was Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop who said that white people do not have monopoly over fine features. If you talk about straight nose, we have it. If you talk about hair, we have all of them. We have all types of hair. We have all types of height. We have all types of everything you want. Whatever you think are the finest features of human beings, Africa has it. Of course, everything came from us. So what do you expect? Then confrontational stance, but not really confrontational, because if I am sovereign, I am sovereign. I don't need to confront you. Confrontation only comes in if you want to deny or ignore my sovereignty. And that is what has happened and continues to happen to Africa. Our sovereignty is being ignored or is being forgotten or is being set aside. And I don't think that is right. So we anticipate violent opposition, surveillance, infiltration, drugs, terrorism from those who don't want us to assert our sovereignty. And we know who they are. We know who they are. And we acknowledge they are the enemy. Former colonial powers and their systems and their collaborators in our midst. We know them. We know them. So we acknowledge them as inherently violent cowards, crybabies who want to continue puerile breastfeeding, taking milk meant for African babies. We know them. They don't want to grow up. Over hundreds of years of stealing from Africa, you still want to continue stealing. Haven't you stolen enough? No, we haven't stolen enough. If you don't steal your resources, we can't survive. How is that our problem? How is that our problem? But anyway, our tone is one of assured victory through our sovereign will and mathematical certainty. So we reject the Eurasian conflict model. We are not asking for conflict. We are just asking to assert our sovereignty. It doesn't mean we can't fight. If we have to fight, we will fight. We fought in Algeria. We fought in Mozambique. We fought in Angola. We fought in Zimbabwe. We fought in South Africa. We're not afraid to fight. Anyone who can fight on this continent, they got it from us. We are the original fighters. We are not afraid to fight. But we are not asking to fight. We don't ask you to fight anybody. We just want to assert our sovereignty in peace. And we are calling on our friends who have overcome colonialism and have become great powers today to join us, to be partners with us. And one of them is China. China was humiliated and colonized just like Africa was. And so was India. But India was lucky they didn't split India up into sub-states like they did Africa. It was Lord Mountbatten who went around unifying India whilst they were busy splitting us up. The only split they did was for Pakistan because of the Hindu-Muslim problem, which, although this is not the whole truth, but you can say it's in the way the cow is treated. And the Muslim wants to eat the cow. The Hindu wants to worship the cow. How can you kill and eat what I worship? That can't be right. So you are my enemy. No, you are my enemy. No, you are my enemy. Anyway, so Pakistan was born. That was the only one. But otherwise, India emerged from colonialism as one nation, even though they went into colonialism as separate kingdoms, if you like, or separate states, but they emerged as one nation. The British were happy to unify India. When it came to Africa, they didn't want to do that. Why? I think we all know why. So the sovereign units of Africa are the organic nations. These are the key points. True nations are cultural, linguistic families. The Luo nation is in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and South Sudan. The Ewe nation is in Ghana and Togo. Then we have the Oromo, the Igbo, Yoruba, Zulu, etc. These are not tribes. These are civilizational basins, legitimate containers of popular sovereignty. So we are saying that these nations should form a federation, we can call it a confederation, where they have their own local governance, culture, and education. But we have regional federation based on the 4 pillars and the language families of Africa. Africa has only 4 language families. Sometimes we think we are so diverse that the diversity is a problem. But actually, Africa has only 4 brothers and sisters. 4 brothers to sisters. That's all Africa has. And we'll come to that in a moment. And then we want a continental confederation with limited enumerated powers. So the 4 pillars are the Niger-Congo Federation, the Afro-Asiatic Federation, the Nilo-Saharan Federation, and the Khoisan Federation. These are the 4 pillars we are proposing because they are the 4 major languages. The Niger-Congo is the largest family. It spans most of sub-Saharan Africa. The Afro-Asiatic are centered in North Africa, Horn of Africa, the Sahel. These are the Swahili, the Zulu, the Lingala, as well as the West African, some of the West African languages. Then we have the Nilo-Saharan, which are scattered a group around the Nile River and the Sahel. This includes the Arabic, Amharic, Oromo, Somali, and Hausa. Then the Khoisan, found primarily in southwestern Africa. These include languages like the Dinka, the Nuer, the Luo, Kanuri, and the Maasai. And they use a click sound, click consonants, and languages are the Khoi. These are the 4 pillars we are proposing that the federation is based on. These are the natural nations of Africa. And then the other one is the path to unification. We are proposing the 3-stage process. The phase 1 is internal liberation. Then phase 2, the horizontal federation. And then phase 3 is the continental confederation. So that's what we are proposing. The foundational principles, we are saying that there should be, or I'm proposing that it should be governed by subsidiarity, that decisions at the lowest possible level. And so there should be sovereignty of nationalities who have power as organic nations, and constructive obsolescence. Basically, you don't destroy a house in which you live, even though you want to build a new one. You build a new one alongside it. So we are saying that the organic nations should construct the new nation, because this one is not going to liberate us. This one is not. The current neo-colonial states are not going to liberate Africa. The AU will not become an organic nation, because it was never an organic institution. It was imposed on us. It will always remain a club for the neo-colonial collaborators. It will not change, I don't think. So we want one passport, one citizenship for free movement across the continent. So the invitation is that we build our own hall. We construct our own nation. The current nation, we did not construct the current Africa. Its construction began in Berlin. We need to start constructing our own Africa. Not a new government, but a new reality. We stop begging for seats at other people's tables. Build our own hall with our timber, our design. It's a logical conclusion of our history. If you look at where we've come from, building our own federated nation is a logical end of our history. It's a liberation our parents dreamed of. So I'm calling us all to begin. But there are some fears. Some fear that unification is centralization. I don't think it is. As I said, the guiding principle is subsidiarity. Decisions are made at the lowest possible level. So the continental government will handle what it must, like foreign policy and diplomacy, continental defense, the African High Command, Pan-African infrastructure and trade, upholding the Continental Charter of Rights, and then the nationalities can handle other things like education, culture, local governance, the police, and the control of the nation. And we don't want a continental police force. We don't want that. We want police force under the control of the nations themselves, resource management. And this protects our diversity and ensures local needs are met. So there's a clear division of powers. There's no fear that a distant oppressive capital will come and harass us, because our constitution will be designed to prevent it. And this is a true vision of Nkrumah and the OAU founders, I believe. Unity in diversity. The OAU you can see, or the AU you can see as markers on our way to total liberation and unification. So we're not building a centralized prison, because if we unify the current new colonial states to be a centralized prison, it's not good for us. So we want to build a federated shield. Let's remind ourselves of the key dates again. Berlin Conference, the crime that was committed in Berlin. It was a crime in Germany. That was in 1884-85. The first Pan-African Conference in 1901. The Manchester Conference was in 45. Nkrumah's conference was in 58. The OAU was in 63. The AU today, we are calling for the United Nations of Africa. So some of the critical analysis and questions have been raised. I've dealt with one, which is a centralization issue. Some will say it's impossible. Others will say, well, how can you dissolve 54 African states? And we're not saying we should dissolve them. They will just be made obsolete if the nationalities do what we are proposing, and so on. Royalty, some will have problems. Some will have problems with the royalty idea. That's understandable, considering some royals have not been the best in our history. Some will have problems with the idea that Africa is for Africans. It was a problem before. It will still be a problem today. As soon as Black people want to organize their own thing, people get anxious. And the moment Black people want to do their own thing, people get anxious. And yet, white people have their own exclusive white organizations. We don't complain. But when we propose our own, they become anxious. Some will have problems with the abolition of political parties. That is understandable. They live is their livelihood, or they've been misled to think it serves our interests. And then some will have problems with the fact that how can you unite a continent with disparities in wealth and so on? And that's a problem, as you know, with South Africa, the youth in South Africa. They think that other Africans will come and take their job and so on. So they revolt and so on and so forth. So there are these problems, but they are only obstacles to our sovereignty. They do not define our sovereignty, and it's up to us to overcome them. So I've written a document which I will share later. It's less a political proposal, more a manifesto and a call to spiritual arms. It articulates a deep-seated frustration with the post-colonial status quo and offers a radical totalizing alternative. It draws power from the legacies of Garvey, Nkrumah, and Padmore, but pushes their ideas to an extreme logical conclusion. Its significance lies in uncompromising expression of a desire for total decolonization, unity, and self-determination, even if the path it outlines appears from a contemporary political standpoint overwhelmingly complex and fraught with potential peril. My proposal, however, serves as a powerful testament to the enduring dream of a united Africa, free from all forms of external domination. I think I'm going to stop here and go straight, because it's a lot. I've kind of put forward the main idea. So it's a call to action. So join us in supporting the UNA Vision for United Africa. I'll share the slides, by the way, anyway. The phase strategy that we have a constitutional conference, coalition of the willing, and then later a full integration. These are the timelines we are proposing, that this year we release the document. Brother Windhoek has put his name forward as one who wants to sign the document. Anyone who wants to sign the document, please contact Brother Windhoek. I will share his details again, and we will release the document for the whole world. And we are hoping that we will form a coalition of the willing in 2027. But between 2025 and 2029, we establish parallel institutions. And by 2030, we have a full integration of member states and the finalization of sovereign national identity by 2032. We think 2063 is too far away. And even that one will not serve our needs anyway. So why don't we move now? Because we are the sovereigns. So here is Brother Windhoek's contact. Remove this. That's his mobile. That's his email. Please contact him. What I am proposing is not new. It was started in the Gold Coast, now Ghana, or partly Ghana, and they form an organization called the Aborigines Rights Protection Society. And it was also new. It was set up, or one also was set up in the USA by Marcus Garvey, called the United Negro Improvement Association. The APRS was local. The UNIA was global. So we are civil society. We are not a state. We are not. We don't have army. We don't have police. We are just sovereign members of a sovereign organic. So we hereby affirm that we aim to complete the work of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society and Marcus Garvey's UNIA, which was set up in USA. So all who are interested in putting their names to the document we aim to release should contact Brother Sir Windhoek in order to fund this program, because the enemy won't fund it for us. We have to fund it ourselves. So we intend to set up a fund whose task will be to raise funding on the global stage for the second liberation, unification, development of Africa. As you know, there is no civil organization currently that I know of. If you know of any, let me know, that is pursuing the unification of Africa. I know there are a lot of Pan-African organizations, WhatsApp groups, and so on, but I don't know of any group that is actively raising funds to fund Africa's unification based on the nations. And we know certainly that the neo-colonial states are not doing it. They meet in their clubs and they talk, but they're not really interested in uniting the continent. So once again, please forward your name to Sir WHK. If you are interested in playing a role in this Pan-African global funding outfit, we shall outdoor it later. We shall discuss it with a few people, and then we'll outdoor it later. In other words, we're not just talking, we are saying that we need to put resources behind this. And so, for instance, when the conference, the constitutional conference meets of the nationalities that will attend, it has to be funded. Otherwise, it won't happen. So that's what we are talking about. Then the other thing also is if you hear this message and you are a part of a Pan-African organization, and when you want your organization to play a founding role in this second liberation, again, please contact Sir Windhoek. And then finally, if you hear this message and are a part of a Pan-African organization and you want your organization to play a founding role, here I meant to say, if you yourself, as opposed to your organization, wants to play a founding role, again, please contact Sir Windhoek, whose details are there below. So I'll answer any questions and answers, but before that, let me go back to the call for action again. Remind you, we don't want to talk, we want to act. And let me go back to the last slide again. Questions and answers. The time now is, I tried to do it in half an hour, just gone over half an hour. Sorry about that. So the time is 10 past 8. I think that is good. We still have enough time for discussion. Thank you. That brings you to the end. The floor is now open. Thank you. I don't think Brother Pigeon is here, and so we would like one of us to chair, and I'd like to invite Brother Winhock, if he's happy to do that, to chair for us the discussion. Thank you. Brother Winhock, are you happy to chair the discussion?
I got mixed feelings.
I'm not sure what that means, but if you're happy, there are hands up. If
anybody else,
time.
Anybody else who can volunteer, I would pass on the chance to them.
Okay, let's see. Sister Chisomo, are you happy to chair the discussion for us?
I've just joined, but that's okay.
Excellent.
If I do it right, if I do it wrong, you correct me.
So we are here to support one another. Basically, you take those who hands are up because they have questions or points to make, and then and then you go. I'll make you.
I've got two hands up.
Yes, I'll make you a co-host. I'll make you a co-host now.
Sister Ida.
Yeah, please proceed. Thank you.
Sister Ida, you want to talk?
Yes, please. Thank you. Brother Kwame, I think even from last time there were three questions that were in my mind. I wonder why Algeria. I wonder why Liberia. I wonder why we're not doing more with the Sahel states, because I think those others are of the past, but haven't continued to show real Pan-African strides. I know that people say, "Oh, Gaddafi, Libya," but the state that Libya is in at the moment, and a lot of its gold has been stolen. Whereas I see the Sahel states as, fighting for their gold, have got rid of France, are still fighting, and are doing an actual web of infrastructure. They're improving their infrastructure in a big way. And then I think the last time that you spoke, you wanted to do something with Nkrumah's mausoleum, which I thought, oh, really? Shouldn't we be moving forward with life rather than embracing death as such? So I'd have preferred to see something more positive. And so I really think that Libya for banking, isn't that in the past? Shouldn't we be looking at the Sahel states and working with them for a lot of things? Algeria, I can't remember exactly what it is you wanted with Algeria, but to me, Algeria and their fight for independence was more than 60 years ago or 50 years ago. And what are they doing for Africa now? So those are my questions. Thank you.
Sister Ida, you sound like Algeria is not part of Africa.
No, I didn't make it sound like Algeria.
Yeah, it sounded like it's other than Africa.
No, I think that their liberation was 60 years ago. Their fight for liberation was 60 years ago, and I haven't heard them doing anything for Africa since.
What have you heard Angola doing for Africa?
Say that again.
What have you heard Congo doing for Africa? What have you heard Angola doing for Africa?
But I haven't listed those two. I've listed Algeria and I've listed.
Yeah, but I'm asking that question because you could put that same question to all the those that fought for independence. So but what is Zimbabwe? So for example, what is Zimbabwe doing for Africa?
Well,
So
you could ask
I am
that, but
not.
I see
I
that
am not
Congo is
saying
still
that.
a fight that a lot of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Africans are fighting for.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
That's why.
I'm not saying they are not doing anything. I'm saying that the question you raise, if you look at those who fought, you could ask the same question. But your point is taken. This is a proposal, and it's not the final document. So I'll factor in your points. Algeria is it's important for us because they fought the French. What the Sahel is doing today is what Algeria did at the time, but it was more ferocious. There was a civil war. In fact, it was more than a civil war in Algeria. But at the time, the Sahelian states did not fight. If the Sahelian states had joined Algeria at the time, we would not be where we are with Francophone Africa, you see. So you could argue the other way and say that maybe Sahel states are catching up with what Algeria did. However, your point is valid, and I'll factor that into the paper when I look at it, because I think the Sahel states must feature in what we are doing. But remember, I'm referring to the nations, and the nations are also in the Sahelian states. We are not interested in the former states, because whatever is happening in Sahelian states, the military is still part of the new colonial state. And some people believe that what has happened in the Sahelian states is part of what people like Brother Explo believed, that the military can play a positive role, and that a coup by a group of young soldiers who want to redirect the new colonial state is in itself a good thing. So there are those who believed in that. This is what led to they joining the PNDC government in Ghana, and things didn't go well for them. It seems to be different in the Sahelian states, but the fundamental problem is still the same. Can you really change the new colonial state? I don't know. I don't think so. But some people think you can. But as I said, your point is taken. I will factor that in the paper. The final point you are making is death. I'm not sure what you mean by death, because people still go to Mecca every year, and the mausoleum is the Mecca for Pan-Africanism. Well, the William Du Bois Center is a Mecca for Pan-Africanism. The George Padmore Library is also a form of Mecca. In fact, there are still African Americans who travel across the oceans to visit the castle where their forefathers were held before they were transported on the ships. They are still coming up to today. Nobody says it's death. So I think you should revisit what you mean by it's death, because I think Ghana will always remain the fount of inspiration for Pan-Africanism. That no African country can take that away from Ghana. And Nkrumah stands in the center of that, and no African country can take that away. So
Through the chair, can I
Ghana
just come back on
remains,
this last point?
yeah, so Ghana remains the fount of inspiration, and that's the point I was making. So, but as I said, I'll factor in your points in the paper.
Sister Chizomo, can I just come back on that?
Yes, Sister Ida.
Okay. Brother Kwame, what you mentioned, the mausoleum in particular. I know that African Americans from all over not just African Americans, but Africans from all over the world also come to see the Gate of No Return. But they're living people, and they're people who are have gone through. Their ancestors may not be here at the moment, but you know, they are the result of their ancestors who were taken. So I'm not saying that Ghana is not an important place, but I think that trying to make the mausoleum of Nkrumah, I think you are trying to make it like I don't know what it was in the last
I'm saying it's a Mecca. I'm not trying to make it.
Mecca.
I'm proposing that it be the Mecca for Pan-Africanism. That's the part I'm proposing. I'm proposing that it be that. And I'm proposing that the genocide center in Kigali also be that kind of Mecca where we remember the atrocities, you know, the genocides that have happened on the continent. And that's why I propose that as well. Because the genocide centers in Kigali are also cemeteries. People are buried there. Those who were hacked to death, they're also buried there. Thank you. But as I said, I'll take your point into consideration when I update the paper.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, Brother Ifo, you're next.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes.
go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you. I have
Thank you.
made similar presentations, except that I did not include fancy graphics like you did. But the basic point of the need to abolish by slowly putting them into obsolescence of the colonial states is something that I have shared and continue to share. So I am in full agreement with that. I also find it interesting that some Africans would live in territories like whether that be the UK, which has a queen, or in my case in Canada, which has I guess UK has a king, Canada has the same king. And somehow they're not as upset with it as they are with the idea of African kings or queens. That being said, I think it's important for us to also be conscious of a fundamental difference within the role of a European or an Arab emperor and an indigenous African leadership. Because our traditions in many places outside, before we were invaded, the royalty were the servants of the people. And I think that's an important thing. My only critique would be about the choice of locations for some of the centers. I think it might be helpful to have a conversation with people from those particular areas as to the feasibility of putting something somewhere. For example, I've lived about an hour or so away from Lagos. I would not wish Lagos on my, maybe on my worst enemy. Lagos is a horrible place to try to get in and around. So I would say put it an hour outside of Lagos and it will make your life so much easier. There's lovely places in Ibadan that would be a good set. That would be good centers. Even Abeokuta as a center of traditional knowledge for the Yoruba peoples. I'm not Yoruba, by the way. I'm just suggesting some logistical things. But apart from that, I really, really, really love the idea of us remembering who we are, not who the colonialists say we are. Because too many people are identifying with whether that be Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana, and those are not who we are. So thank you for sharing this. My only question is a philosophical and tactical question. Is have we come up with ways to be able to discern which of the traditional rulers are actually the traditional rulers and not the ones that are colonial puppets? You know what I mean? But that's one of the things that I'm conceptually trying to figure out is how do we find out who's really aligned with the Pan-African struggle and who may actually be an enemy of the people. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you for your comments. So straight away, I would say we have you, who I think will be willing to put your name to the paper. I'm happy to update it, and instead of Lagos, make it Abeokuta, as you've suggested. I have been to Abeokuta myself. I think it's a very lovely place. Yeah, it is away from Lagos, as
I
you
would
said.
say I would suggest Ibadan, mostly for
Ibadan,
selfish reasons.
yeah. I've not been to Ibadan, but I've been to Abeokuta. Yeah, okay. So we're happy to update that part of the paper. The other thing also is if you can leave your contact for us or for me in the chat or with Brother Winhock, so that I can contact you. And if you've written a paper, so we can amalgamate the two papers into one paper. I believe you are from Nigeria. Is that correct, brother?
That's what the British said. I am Isoko. I don't recognize colonial territories.
so
Except during the World Cup.
I'm Ewe. So you are Isoko Ewe.
Yes.
So already. Excellent. So I say so because together, I think we can move this forward. So thank you for your words of support. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ifo. The next hand up is Window.
Greetings, everybody, again. Brother Kwame, at the very beginning of the presentation, I understood you having said Africans on the continents are fast asleep, and Africans in the diaspora are the ones pushing hard or harder for the unification of Africa. Have we, if I understood you correctly, then the question would be, have we tried to find out why it is as it is? That's my first observation. The second is the first genocide of the 21st century happened in Namibia. Just for consideration for the genocide memorial. And on the concern of royals, I was told that Africa is the cradle of civilization. And before the West came back to Africa to colonize us, we were being run as monarchs, predominantly. So my view is it wouldn't be difficult for royals to be elevated to the levels that we want. I think royals and monarchs just got corrupted mostly by the West so that they could attain their objectives. Those are my 2-3 comments. Thank you.
Yeah, so I did an investigation recently. I spent some time in an African country. I won't mention which one. And I basically went underground. I just went there as an ordinary person, just trying to live my life. You recall I didn't join any of our CSG meetings. I hardly joined them. And so I cut myself off from our discussions on Thursdays and on Saturdays, just so I can see what life is like. And what I found was that the ordinary African is busy trying to make a living. That he or she the idea of unifying Africa is very far away. Even criticizing his or her government is not on the whole allowed. So if he is found to be criticizing his or her government, he or she may be picked up by the security services and interrogated. Obviously, I did not criticize anybody. I just went about my daily life. So this is what I found out, Brother Sir Windhoek. I did not carry out any extensive survey. The Continent, the newspaper, The Continent, the electronic newspaper, I think has done some research on some of these topics. So I will interrogate what they have said on a lot of issues. I'm not sure whether they've done one on why Africans are not enthused by the idea of continental unification. You will notice that in our forums, Northern Africa does not appear. Our North African brothers and sisters, even though North African countries are part of the African Union, and now on the African continent, you notice they don't seem to participate in issues that are happening on south of the Sahara. And in my interaction with some of them here, there is still a view that Black people are inferior to them, and so on and so forth. So some of our brothers and sisters are, as you know, against the idea of even admitting the North African states into some kind of unified Africa, because they argue that these are Islamites who want to just dominate us and so on. But Nkrumah married from Egypt, and his children are with us. And Nkrumah showed that we can bridge that gap. So it's one of the things also is that in the Congo, the Bantu and this group, there's another group. I don't know if it's the Khoisan, but the Bantus are murdering this. I think they are the Pygmies, if I'm right. The Bantus are murdering the Pygmies, and when the Bantus murder the Pygmies, nothing is done to the Bantus in the Congo, and the murder are over land, because they encroach on the lands of the Pygmies, and when the Pygmies complain, they are murdered. And when this is reported to the authorities, nothing is done to the Bantus. Nobody is mentioning this. So even within our own nationalities, there are crimes going on. Brother Pigeon, you recall, shared with us this issue of stealing cattle, where they'll go and steal other people's cattle, where people go and steal other people's cattle, and it's a big problem, and so on. So we are not saying that nationalities do not have internal, if you like, disagreement and so on. They are there, but these are things we can sit down and sort out ourselves. We don't need people from outside to come and sort them out for us. We can do so ourselves. So I hope that that helps. I'm making note of all the comments so that I can update the paper with it. Thank you, Sister Chuzomo. I think I'll end there for that one.
Thank you. I have Brother Bongani next.
Thanks, Chair. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes.
Thanks, brother. Comment on the presentation. Very instructive. Well, I've got few, I don't know, questions or inputs. One, I just wanted to have a say on the traditional leadership, call it the royalty, the kingdoms. The reality is the neocolonial, colonial system, the apartheid system in the case of South Africa, that institution has been destroyed badly. I heard Zara Comrade talking of maybe we look at those that are Pan-Africanist orientated and so forth. But I think maybe if one looks at the economics of this project and the economic of the actual unification itself, in which now we start with the economics of this project, we can put that as an entry point from a programming point of view. I'm thinking now the sustainability of this presentation that you are making to us. How do we sustain this? Institutionally, possible, we might argue and say that the realities have been collapsed by the previous regimes. Therefore, as part of our program, as our entry to the society, we want to resuscitate that institution, regardless of they are within the Pan-Africanist orientations or not. And we create a program as such for that. And in doing so, it should contribute to the sustainability of the project while it brings an awareness across broadly in the African continent, where then we try and push the royal families or traditional leadership to the level of political parties on the current existing state, while we are phasing this program through. It is a fact. I've tried this in South Africa. I was ambitious as well, thinking that traditional leaders can overnight can replace the political parties. There is a huge gap. If you're saying African people are asleep, traditional leaders are on a coma, on the sample I've used here in South Africa. So there is a need. They know that they are traditional leaders, but they don't know where to start. They've been paralyzed. So that can be a part of the program, the sustainability of this. That is one with regard to the traditional leaders. That is the resuscitation of the traditional leaders as the program of this initiative that you are coming with. The other thing that I wanted to make as a sort of a correction, maybe, or something for you to think about it. You refer on Zulu when you talk to the Southern Africa. I think maybe you rather replace the Zulu. Zulu is a sub-tribe within the Nguni. Actually, the real tribe is Nguni. So that is why in so many instances we argue that it's our language is Nguni, but then within Nguni you have Zulu, Xhosa, Swati, and so with the objectives of unification, we're trying to run away from the Zulu, Nguni, Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, Swati, all those. No, we get rid of them. We instead talk of the Nguni. Actually, the Zulu tribe is new. Very, very new. Zulu tribe is something of Shaka in the somewhere 1800. There've been kingdoms here, so I don't want to get there, but I just wanted to make that contribution for you to think about it when you talk of the tribes. There is Nguni basically, and then there are sub tribes to that. Then the economy. I've already raised the programming using the resuscitation or revival of traditional leaders as a program, as one of, because if you run a project like this, you need to have a program so that people get busy. Then it will be the programming that will be attracting funding for this, because you need to say these are things that we are doing so that people can put money to that, and then in so doing, then you sustain the project or the initiative. So the economics of of this initiative, I would like you maybe to think about the model. How do the initiative itself, how is it going to be financed so that it's not something that we talk about it now and then within 3 months we no longer talk about it. So the economic model, there's a need for some sharp brains, numeric orientated brains, to really think through and say what can be done to come up with a financing model, a funding model of this. I'm always looking at it from a programming perspective, like I've already raised. I can think of the resuscitation of traditional leadership. I think most African societies would love to see traditional leaders being revived. So many other corporations, etc., would like to see some kind of a shake-up in terms of alternative to the current political system. I'm talking of the current state. But in so doing, you're sustaining your state. So the financing model. The other part that I wanted to bring is now the economics of the federation you're suggesting. I hear there you talk of the federation fund. I am happy that you make reference to the Libyan leader. I'm not too sure what you suggested there. I came late, but I saw that you suggested Libya to be the banker, to host the banking. I will assume you might have done that because Muammar was suggesting to use the resource from the gold to underwrite the bank that he suggested at the time. So I would imagine that when you talk of this reparation funding, it will come in the model of a sovereign fund. I would think so. But now, how we go about it, now we go province to province, as you suggest that these countries will be provinces. So because I think, you see, better, in South Africa, we had what we call the Reconstruction and Development Program, but we never suggested how it's going to be funded. And we let it go, the mineral mining houses, to walk away with the platinum, the gold, etc., without enforcing them to say, listen, we have a reconstruction and that's what ANC did. We have a reconstruction and development program. This reconstruction and development program needs to be funded. They were supposed to suggest a sovereign fund at the time. Then immediately you take the resources, then you deal with issues of reparations, as you suggest. I think Mandela mentioned that the material reconstruction and the spiritual reconstruction. Because when you combine these societies in the African continent, it's going to be a lot of work. You already suggested in South Africa, we have issues issues of the so-called xenophobia. I don't want to get to those politics. I might have some issues to discuss that, but I'm saying that means that these societies are at war. So there's going to be a need of a lot of reparation spiritually. So that means that reparation fund, it needs a hell of resourcing. So possible you have to think of maybe be a bit explicit as to how this reparation fund will be. So we should talk strictly. I would suggest a sovereign wealth fund. We need to fund it. Then possibly the bank in Libya. We can argue and say then it will be backed by the gold. Lastly, without inventing the wheel, Muammar, when he suggested that people like Mbeki and there were others, I don't know if Obasanjo in Nigeria was still there. Senegalese president, I think, was also there when this whole thing of Gaddafi come up with the African unity or African Union, or whatever he called it. Molefi Asante did a thorough research on the economy of Africa to posit feasibility of an African Union. He went on from a resource point of view, and he did an extensive research on that. He went on the ocean economy. He did extensive research on that. And he went on population, demographics, the age, the youthfulness of the African continent. And he went on the actual economics of the macroeconomics, the demand relative to the supply from a consumption point of view, the potential of the African continent to create its own economy. So he did quite extensively. However, he had reservations that I think he argued that Mbeki and others in the process, they started to move slowly in that endeavor, and then Gaddafi was the only one who was driving the process very, very, very passionately. So what I'm saying, he will be always be keen to listen to what you have. Is very vivid. Professor Mulife Asante. He did extensive work in this. And then all that work has been dropped because after they let it go, they dropped the whole thing. Then he couldn't move on. So I'm saying such collaborations can strengthen and put vigor on your paper. I should thank and pause from that point. Thank you very much for the presentation. Actually, I support it. If wherever that needs to be signed, I'm open to put such application. I'm prepared to put a contribution to wherever I can. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. So,
Brother Kwame.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got very little time left, and I've got 4 hands up. Can I suggest they give their points, and then you address them together, so that some people go without speaking. Brother Benny keeps putting his hand up and down.
Right.
I don't know if he wants to speak, but at the moment I've got Tapua, Catherine, Jeka, and Brother Benny.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Chair,
how you want to do that.
Yeah, Chair, unfortunately, we may not be able to take all questions. So, for instance, Brother Benny would like to make some comments as well. And you are right. We are happy to have another session where I will not do an extensive presentation, where we can discuss, like we did for the program on indigenous knowledge. So, Chair, I'm saying that if we can't take all the questions, we can have a third and final session next week, if that's okay with you.
The other hand has gone. I've now got 2 hands left.
Right. Okay. So if you would like me to respond to all 3 at the same time, that's fine.
Okay. Sister Catherine, I don't know what happened to Sister Tapua.
You can always ask her to speak, even though her hand is up. It's fine.
Sister Tapua, did you want to go next?
I put my hand down because I'm for the other meeting where we can just have a discussion. Because for me, I've learned so much, and I've got a lot of questions on how this is going to be operationalized. So maybe taking part in a group where we're really looking through some of the things that have been suggested is going to be helpful for me, because I think it's too late for me to ask the questions that I had. Thank you. So third session, please.
Yeah, true. And some of us need to catch up because we've missed the bits and pieces. So, okay, Sister Catherine. Sister Catherine. Yeah, she's gone. Is it Brother Jeka?
Sister Njidika, yeah.
Sorry, Sister Njidika.
Okay, thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. My quick question, well, no, yes, so I'm back on the Africa name. Please consider dissolving that name and coming up with another name. You mentioned tonight, you mentioned tonight in regards to Land of the Blacks, and there are plenty of names that that mean that. I know even in here in Ghana, Abibi Mine, something like that. You mentioned last week, or the last time I was with you on this topic, Al-Kabulan, but please just consider that changing. And Yes, that's all I'll say about that. And then, is there a map that depicts the new, the new description of the provinces and the regions? And if it is, if there is one, did you show it tonight? I may have missed it.
No, I can answer that. Sorry, finish your questions and then I can answer them. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I am finished. So
Okay,
thank you so much.
yeah, so we haven't. Sorry, Chair, go on.
Yes, I just want to thank you for the presentation that you have made. And I was born in the Caribbean of West African parents. As Kwame once says, I wasn't born in Africa, but Africa was born in me. My father was also a member of the Pan-African Brotherhood, and he had lived in Ghana as another brother, and I myself is very active in my community. I lived in the US, and I have traveled to Africa immensely. I've helped a lot of children in the diaspora, Africa and the Caribbean. You have mentioned a very important aspect, and it's spirituality and cultural rebirth, which I really applaud you for doing that, because I think as African, we really need to reestablish the African identity. And, when you look at the colonizer that they have come into Africa, and the colorization of what they have left all their bastard kids all over the Caribbean, all over Africa, and where else, has really caused a big problem among Africans. A year or two ago, I was in South Africa, and I went there to visit a friend of mine. And I'll be honest with you, Brother Kwame, I was totally flabbergasted. I was speaking to this young girl who mentioned to me that she was trying to commit suicide. Why? Because she seems to have been the darkest of her parents. Mother is mulatto and her father is darker, and she feels that they have resented her because of the color of her skin. And I realize that there is a serious problem as you talk about mental enslavement in Africa, where I've seen and experienced a lot of African, they're so subservient of the barbarians. I call them barbarians because they are Caucasians. I went into a store once in South Africa while I was there, and wanted to purchase an item. And I walked in there with intention of really spending my money because of what I've seen that I wanted to take back as gift for my friends and family. And the young girl behind the counter, who has a dark complexion, saw these white women walked in, and immediately she ran and kind of totally ignored me and run to them. So I had to caution her. I said, hey, come back here. My money is also good and probably bigger than their money too. Who dare you leave me and run to these Caucasian because of their complexion? What is it? Their money's better than mine. So the white woman looked at me and she said, oh, I'm sorry, because she realized that I was not South African, and she listened to my accent. And just to prove them wrong, I dropped a couple thousand in the store before I left. And I'm sure the white women that were there was not about to spend that kind of money that I spent. I actually even got the name of the proprietor that owned the store. And when I left there, I called them and told them exactly what happened, which they apologized. So I see that need of education in Africa, where a lot of Africa needs to have to be educated about their rich culture and how important and valuable they are, living in a society that had been colonized. And yes, I will agree with you, my brother. there's a lot of people that I've seen in Africa. And when I say I've traveled to Africa, I have traveled a lot of countries in Africa. Because I mean, I really think that we in the diaspora has really pushed harder, you know, for liberation than those who have lived in Africa that are still under mental enslavement because of the color of their skin. As my father once said to me, it's better to die for something than to live for nothing. And so even in my community that I lived in, you know, I'm making sure that I really work with the youths to make sure that they go to college because most of their family hasn't got the money to send them to school. And I myself have to do the needful to help these Black youths to get them in college, whether through the keyhole, the front door, the back door, or whatever door that I can, because I see the Jews. When I was going to school in the 80s, I see what the Jews have done for their children and for their people. Most of these that I went to college with, they weren't even smart. A lot of African came here and was much smarter, but never had the privilege that they have. Only because they were Jewish, they were able to go to med school and they were going to law school, cheat on their paper. Have even asked me to help them with their work so they could, you know, get a grade to pass so they could finish with a degree. So right there again, brother, I come back again to the culture that we have to start teaching our children in Africa and out of Africa the importance of our history. And coming back to our spirituality, that is so major important. In Jamaica, had it not been for the spirituality, the Maroons who won the war from the British, they would never have won the war had it not been their spirituality. And I tell you this, the same thing went on in Haiti. The Haitian would never won the war against the French had it not been for their spirituality. So there again, you know, the Caucasian, the barbarians have brainwashed us to think that, oh, forget about your spirituality. I'm going to teach you all these different religions so you can forget about your spirituality because it's evil and it's this and it's dark and it's that. They even call it Obia. And so they have banned the African religion in the Caribbean and call it Obia, that they cannot practice their religion. And this is something that we have to teach our children and let them realize how important spirituality, culture, and to have this rebirth. Once again, I could go on. Oh, one other thing that is so important, brother. We in the Caribbean, when we're going to Africa, I just really think that my ancestors has never given up citizenship. And it really becomes a big deal for a lot of us of African heritage that's moved back to Africa, have to go through much red tape just to get resident and citizenship. And I think this should be written, in the Constitution of the Pan-African, that we should not have to wait so long for citizenship and resident when we do move to Africa. My cousin, who had left Jamaica over 40 years, and she waited over 35 years to get citizenship in Ghana, and 2 years later she died. For me, that was heart-wrenching and a big blow. And I really think that we should have one language, one special language that everyone that should be able to speak in Africa. Once again, thanks for the time. God bless. And I'm ready to sign off on this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sister. Okay, so.
Okay, Brother Kwame.
Yes, so we have so far Sewin Hawk, Brother Bongani, Sister Catherine. Sister Catherine, put your contact in the chat for me to pick it up. Sister Catherine. So those are the three so far. And then Brother Ife.
And myself.
Yourself, Brother Ifo, Brother Ifo, Sister Chisomo, and I'm just going through, and I think
Tapua.
Sister Tapua trying to speak.
Yeah, so those have put their names to the document. So so I will update and circulate to those who have put their names to it before we release it, so that you are happy with the content. I know I have the contact of most of you, but I'm not sure about Sister Catherine. So please put your contact in the chat for me, unless Brother Pigeon has your contact already. Let me quickly respond. We will have a third session next week, and that will be a discussion-only session. I'll probably just do a recap for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll have a discussion. But let me respond to some of the comments quickly. Sister Catherine, I'm not sure if I heard you right. Did you say bastard kids?
Excuse me, what did you say, brother?
Did you say bastard kids all along the... Did you use that terminology?
The barbarians, the colonizer, have so many. They're the one that started with the word.
I understand. I'm asking, did you use that terminology?
Yes, I sure did, and I'm not going to apologize for it.
Well, that's okay, but I just want you to know that unfortunately I have to disassociate myself from that terminology because of my position here in the UK. So I'd like to officially disassociate myself from that language of bastard kids, mulatto, and barbarian. The reason I have to disassociate myself is because I belong to a teachers' union that whose policy is that we don't use such language, because the children that we... No,
and I understand that, I understand that, brother. I was taught this by the English people in Jamaica.
I understand. Please, I'm not saying you should put aside your belief. I'm just letting you know, because some of them listen to my programs, and I don't want them saying our teacher, endorses this. So I need to dissociate myself. The children that we teach, some of them will fit this description, and if I call them that, I will be invited to a disciplinary meeting. So I just want to dissociate myself from the language. The other thing is quickly, yes, Brother Bongani, I take it that not only do you put your name to it, but you also would like to write some papers. So that is most welcome. I have your contact already, so I'll contact you. The sovereign fund is in place. That is correct. Molefi Asante Afrocentrism, I think, can be central to our position. That is all accepted. The funding model again is accepted. I like your your programmatic approach. There is that also. Brother Benny has also in the last meeting said we need a funding model for the new African nation, which I said I will address in a different presentation, which is the economics of the African Union. That is a separate presentation. So I think I've addressed some. And then finally, thank you for the Nguni as the nationality. It mirrors the Akan also in Ghana. So the Akans, I think, are like the Nguni. The Akans have sub nationalities like the Ashanti, the Akwapem, the Nzima, where Nkrumah comes from. Those are all sub Akan nationalities. So thank you for that correction. Yes, so thank you for those. Sister Njidika, yes, we will take into account the name as you suggested. And I think your other question, if I remember, was the map. We will ask anyone amongst us who has those cartographic skills to help us design a map. Brother Pigeon designed some of the maps you can see in the presentation. So maybe he can help. But anybody who has cartographic skills can help us design a map that will show what we are saying. Then it's 9:05. I'm so sorry. We don't usually go beyond 9. I think, yes. Sister Catherine, cultural revival, yes, that is central. Culture alone is a participatory spectacle, and to celebrate who we are. I don't think we celebrate who we are, really, even in terms of our diversity. Is just beautiful. The African personality must take its place on the global stage. Sister Chizoma, I think I have answered some of all the questions. Anyone I haven't answered, we will answer them next week, Saturday. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just to comment on the Ngonis are all over the southern region, almost in every country. So,
okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
We are always learning. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if Brother Pigeon want to say something. He just came in.
Okay.
Can I come in? Sorry, just briefly. There's a difference between Nguni and Ngoni. There's a difference, so we need to look into that. Just
okay.
Okay.
So, Chair, can I suggest we take that up next week, Saturday?
All right.
Because it's part of the 4 pillars, the language groups. Thank you.
Anybody wants to say something? We've come to an end. And thanks for coming. And I'll pass it on to Brother Kwame.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Pigeon. Please, announcements.
I think Brother Pigeon is trying to say can't speak now. Can't speak now.
Okay. All right. So I think announcements that we will have will be that today is Saturday. On Monday there will be the session on dictatorship that Brother Pigeon does. There will be the Swahili class. I heard it was finished. I'm not sure if it's still finished or whether it's still going on. Sister Ida, is it still going on, the Swahili class?
It's finished, but there's something on Friday with another group that's also doing.
Right. So there will be another meeting on Saturday. Our philosophy class will continue as usual on Thursday. We'll continue with chapter 4 where we stopped, and then next Saturday we shall continue this discussion around the unification of Africa on the basis of the nation, the organic nations. Chair, that will be all the announcements from me.
You. So did you say we are going to see the document for discussion on Saturday, or?
Yes, I think I can produce the draft based on the discussion so far, and share with those who have put their name forward. That is Sir Winhawk, yourself, Sister Apoa, Brother Ifo, Sister Catherine, Brother Bongani, and Sister Njidika also put her name to it. So I'll share the draft with you, and if you're happy, then I'll make any changes you suggest, and then after the meeting on Saturday, we then release it as a public document. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much
everyone.
for all your hard work and the information you shared with us.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
So Chizoma, I'll just put on music and people can leave as they want. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Africa must show